House Speaker Kevin McCarthy recently gave Tucker Carlson unfettered access to January 6 footage. And now, MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell is so mad that he plans to sue Kevin McCarthy. So I hope you grabbed your popcorn because it's time to watch the Republican Party fight each other again. I'm Gabe Sanchez, and welcome to another episode of What Was That? The Cowardly Lion known as Kevin McCarthy recently decided to give Tucker Carlson exclusive access to over 40,000 hours of January 6 footage.
I think sunshine matters, so I don't care what side of the issue you are on. That's why I think putting it out all to the American public, you can see the truth, see exactly what transpired that day, and everybody can have the exact same.
Only issue is that sunshine is now being filtered through the confused conspiracy boy known as Tucker Carlson. And the reason McCarthy gave was, "I promised," which is kind of weird because Republicans never follow through with their promises. Now, McCarthy did say he has plans to give the security footage over to other media outlets, but that is yet to happen. That's because McCarthy wanted to give a head start to lil' old Tuckums. That way, Tucker can find a few seconds in those 40,000 plus hours of January 6 footage to discredit and downplay the insurrection as something less, like vandalism.
We hated seeing vandalism at the U.S. Capitol a year and a half ago, and we said so at the time. But we did not think it was an insurrection because it was not an insurrection. It was not even close to an insurrection.
Tucker's going to try to gaslight the American people by telling everyone that January 6 didn't happen the way that it did, despite many of us watching it live.
You know, it tells you a lot about the priorities of our ruling class that the rest of us are getting yet another lecture about January 6 tonight from our moral inferiors, no less. An outbreak of mob violence, a forgettably minor outbreak by recent standards that took place more than a year and a half ago, but they've never stopped talking about it.
Okay, first, Tucker Charlatan has never not been in the ruling class. His stepmother is Patricia Swanson, the heiress to the wealth generated by the Swanson TV dinner company. Second, Tucker Carlson wouldn't know morality if it slapped him in the face with his own bow tie. And third, a forgettably minor outbreak that we haven't stopped talking about? Huh. I wonder why, Tucker. Oh, that's right. It's because a mob of gallows-building, shit-smearing, mace-spraying MAGA extremists had a tantrum and stormed the Capitol on January 6th. For example, when they literally fought and maced Capitol Police. Or when they broke into the Capitol. Or when they cheered to hang Mike Pence. Hang Mike Pence! Hang Mike Pence! But it must have been an unforgettably major outbreak if Senator Josh Hawley ran away like this. If it wasn't already obvious, Tucker Carlson is the last person you should ever trust with anything. Especially since Tucker is such a pro-Putin propagandist. I mean, have you seen his office lately? The guy is like really obsessed with Putin. But seriously, Tucker has repeatedly questioned the events that led up to the insurrection, and that is exactly why Kevin McCarthy believes he is the perfect guy for the job.
And we have, you may have read this today, been granted access to that. And we believe that access is unfettered. We believe we have secured the right to see whatever we want to see. So we've been there about a week. Our producers, some of our smartest producers have been there looking at this stuff and trying to figure out what it means and how it contradicts or not the story that we've been told for more than 2 years. We think already that in some ways it does contradict that story. And so we're going to spend the rest of this week taking a look at it, assessing it as honestly as we can.
Tucker Carlson in the January 6 footage is exactly like Elon in the Twitter files. It's going to prove there was no cover-up and that January 6th actually was an insurrection. And Tucker Carlson having unfettered access to closed-circuit TV footage poses both political and security concerns. Hakeem Jeffries slammed the decision in a recent statement. The apparent transfer of video footage represents an egregious security breach that endangers the hard-working women and men of the United States Capitol Police, who valiantly defended our democracy with their lives at risk on that fateful day. Representative Benny Thompson and former chair of the January 6 committee shared his thoughts during a recent interview.
Giving this video to Fox News or network, Tucker Carlson or whomever, is clearly a dereliction of duty of the speaker. And at some point, I hope nothing happens, but he needs to be made accountable for what is clearly something that puts the security of the United States Capitol at risk.
Representative Jamie Raskin, who was also on the January 6 committee, shared his concerns as well.
The underlying question is really one of security of the members of Congress, the staff, the U.S. Capitol Police, people who work in the Capitol. We were very careful to put together a very comprehensive video portrait of what happened that day. We had staff going through thousands and thousands of hours, and we told the story in bipartisan fashion to the American people, but we didn't give away the location of cameras. We didn't give away evacuation routes and escape pathways for the vice president and the members of Congress and so on.
And of course, MAGA believes that the Democratic Party's concerns over Tucker having the footage means that they're trying to hide the truth, which might be the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Unlike Republicans, Democrats are actually concerned about legitimate security threats that could come from Tucker filtering the footage through his conspiracy lens. You know, like if someone wanted to plan another insurrection, then they would know exactly where to go and what to do. But based on MAGA's logic, it sounds like they would be okay with someone else sharing private details about their home with the general public. How to break in, where security cameras are located, and most importantly, where they hide their sex toys. That last one is obviously a joke, but knowing how obsessed Republicans are with people's genders, genitalia, and sexualizing a plastic toy potato, maybe it's not. And now Kevin McCarthy is blossoming into quite the January 6th apologist, as he just granted January 6th defendants access to all of the Capitol security footage. Republican Representative Barry Loudermilk will be leading the effort in ensuring the insurrectionists get exactly what they need to help overturn their convictions. This is the same guy who denied ever giving a group tour of the Capitol on January 5th. People on this reconnaissance tour photographed and recorded areas that are not typically of interest to tourists, such as hallways, staircases, and security checkpoints. One of the people on this tour was outside the Capitol on January 6th and filmed himself making threats against Democratic representatives. What an absolute dumbass! We're starting to see the deals that McCarthy made to barely secure his bid for House Speaker.
McCarthy has some explaining to do.
Now, while there might be some Republicans who don't agree with McCarthy giving the footage to Tucker, there is definitely one Republican who is very upset with McCarthy. And that is pillow salesman Mike Lindell. You know, the guy who wanted Trump to invoke martial law so Trump could stay in power longer. Mike Lindell not only believed, but also helped spread false election fraud claims about Dominion voting systems. And now, he's being sued for defamation for $1.3 billion, which is slightly less than the $1.6 billion that Dominion is suing Fox News for. Anyway, Mike Lindell went on to Steve Bannon's War Room for a bizarre interview where he said he was planning to sue Kevin McCarthy.
Fox is going to sift through it and only put out what they want. And I'm tired of it breaking our constitutional rights. We have to stand up at everything.
Hell has frozen over because I actually agree with crazy man Mike Lindell. Not on the legal merit of his lawsuit, but giving Tucker exclusive access. Not to mention Kevin McCarthy gatekeeping other media organizations till Tucker and his team have had a head start to review the footage. And now 10 media organizations have requested McCarthy also give them access to said footage. But when it comes to Mike Lindell, it doesn't take a legal expert to understand that his case doesn't have a leg to stand on. Lindell is trying to argue that McCarthy is violating the First Amendment's freedom of the press provision.
We're going after him for the First Amendment provision. Freedom of the press, we're injured by not having access.
And like most Republicans, Lindell doesn't actually understand how the First Amendment works. The First Amendment says that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. McCarthy isn't violating that freedom simply because he's giving the videos to only Fox News right now. Lindell then goes on to argue that McCarthy is violating the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause.
And then the other thing is the Equal Protection Clause, discrimination by the speaker.
Mike Lindell believes that his network, Lindell TV, was injured by McCarthy not giving him access to the footage. The 14th Amendment says that no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. McCarthy has not deprived Mike Lindell of his privileges as an American citizen by choosing to only give Tucker Carlson the footage. So even though Kevin McCarthy is a coward bucking to the demands of Tucker Carlson, it's not illegal, especially when McCarthy says he plans to give other media outlets access to the footage later on. It's not fair to give the footage to only one network, especially Tucker Carlson, an illegitimate journalist who has spent months sowing doubt into our election and pushing the conspiracy that January 6th was not an insurrection. Because let's not forget, the lawyers at Fox News successfully argued in court that nobody really believes Tucker Carlson is reporting facts. By the way, does anyone else find it funny that an illegitimate journalist is whining about another illegitimate journalist? Especially when both of them are conspiracy theorists spewing nonsense and propaganda into the Republican echo chamber. But I think the funniest part of this interview is that Steve Bannon knows that this lawsuit is so dumb that he even questions Lindell's priorities.
Of all the fights we got in the world, of all the terrible things going on, we're fighting on on every different front. They're giving 44,000 hours to Tucker because he's got the staff to do it. Of all the stuff that you're fighting everywhere, you're trying to get the machines out, you're running a company, they're trying to destroy Mike Lindell. Why, of all the fights that we got, why would you pick on telling McCarthy he can't partner with Tucker?
I used to think Donald Trump had the dumbest lawyers, but this next part makes me think otherwise.
My lawsuits with Dominion and others, there's a lot of cover-up going on where the two even kind of tied together out there. But the lawyers, we were going to go after Fox to get it. And the lawyers, yesterday we had a big meeting and they said, no, we're going to go right after the Speaker, right after Congress.
The fact that Mike Lindell's lawyers advised him to go after McCarthy is both hilarious and on brand for a guy who got his phone seized by the FBI in a Hardee's drive-thru.
And I'll take it all the way up. I don't care if I don't get it there. We're going to run this all the way to the Supreme Court.
Wait, what was that?
We're going to run this all the way to the Supreme Court.
I don't want to burst his bubble, but Lindell doesn't have the best track record when it comes to getting his stuff seen by the Supreme Court. Remember when Mike Lindell thought the justices would immediately return a 9-0 decision to reinstate Trump as president?
Donald Trump won. We got to vote 9-0 immediately to pull this down and get rid of whatever the communists that are here.
Man, those were some good times. But regardless of Lindell's attack on McCarthy, the only reason that McCarthy is doing all of this is because he's beholden to MAGA and Tucker Carlson.
If Kevin McCarthy wants to be the Speaker, he is going to have to do things he would never do otherwise. Like what? We can think of at least two things. First, release the January 6th files. Not some of the January 6th files and video, all of it.
I mean, Matt Gaetz specifically demanded the footage be released as a condition of supporting Kevin McCarthy as House Speaker. And as a result, Kevin McCarthy must fulfill every promise he made because it only takes one vote to put his speakership into question. The fact is, Kevin McCarthy gave Tucker Carlson access to the January 6th footage first so that Fox News could create a counter-narrative that is full of
alternative facts.
And considering that Tucker and his Fox News buddies are already being sued for $1.6 billion by Dominion, they might want to navigate this topic carefully. I have a feeling that this disinformation campaign is going to backfire on Kevin McCarthy and the rest of the Republican Party in such a magnificent way. And like a true coward, Kevin McCarthy is running from the problem that he created.
Speaker McCarthy, why are you releasing those tapes to Fox, sir? Is there a security concern in releasing those tapes?
Was this a concession you made to become Speaker?
This seems to be a pattern for Kevin McCarthy because he also ran from the press regarding January 6th in 2022.
You know what? Make an appointment in office and come up all the time, okay? It's not good to do interviews.
So however this ends for Kevin McCarthy, my only warning to him is...
You in danger, girl.
Well, thanks so much for watching another episode of What Was That? If you'd like to get access to exclusive bonus content on more news and current events, make sure to join the Patreon at whatwasthatshow.com. That's whatwasthatshow.com. So until next episode, I'm Gabe Sanchez, and this has been What Was That?